There was a small staircase leading down into a hidden basement. I had no idea this even existed. I grabbed a flashlight and carefully descended. The basement wasn't huge, but it was packed with machinery. Strange, intricate equipment connected by metal pipes and a huge, half-completed structure that looked like some kind of engine or generator. On the wall, there were diagrams showing energy flow, water currents, and something labeled the heart of Willow Creek. That's when it hit me. He wasn't building something for himself. He was trying to build something for the town. I spent the next few weeks going through every note, every drawing. Slowly, I realized that he had been designing a hydro-powered generator that could use the town's old river dam to produce clean electricity. Our town had constant power issues after the old power plant closed. If this worked, it could literally bring the town back to life. But there was a reason he hadn't finished it. Some key parts were missing, and some of his calculations didn't make sense. I needed help. I took a risk and reached out to a local engineer named David, who'd been a friend of my grandfather's. When I showed him the blueprints, his eyes widened. "I remember this," he said softly. "Your grandfather told me about it once. Everyone thought he was crazy, said it couldn't be done with what we had. But he never gave up." Together we started reworking the plans, updating the design using modern materials and tech. It wasn't easy. We hit roadblocks, funding issues, and skepticism from almost everyone in town. People thought we were wasting our time. That old man's dream died with him, someone told me. But I couldn't let it go. The more I worked, the more I felt like I was connecting with him, as if every bolt I tightened and every wire I connected brought me closer to understanding the man I'd lost too soon. Months passed. Finally, after endless nights of trial and error, the generator was ready. We had installed it near the dam, just where Grandpa had planned. The entire town gathered that morning, curious but doubtful. I took a deep breath and flipped the main switch. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then the sound of the turbine spinning filled the air, and one by one the streetlights flickered on. People gasped, some started cheering, others cried. It wasn't just the lights, it was what they represented. Hope, renewal. News spread fast. Within a year, the project had drawn attention from environmental organizations and investors. The town, once dying, began to thrive again. Businesses reopened, jobs returned, and people started believing in the future. They called it Grandpa's Light. A plaque was later installed at the site of the generator, in memory of Walter Hayes, whose dream lit the way for Willow Creek. One evening, I returned to that old workshop. The sun was setting, casting a golden light through the dusty windows. I placed his letter back on the workbench and whispered, "You did it, Grandpa. You saved us." For a moment, I swear I could almost hear his voice again, soft, proud, and full of warmth, telling me that he always knew I'd finish what he started. Later, I learned something even more astonishing. While going through the town's historical records, I found that my grandfather had once petitioned the local government to fund a renewable energy project decades earlier, but they denied him, calling it unrealistic. Instead of giving up, he decided to do it on his own, quietly, for years. He didn't want fame or credit. He just wanted to make sure the next generation had something better. I cannot describe the feeling of walking through our revitalized town today, hearing the hum of the generator, seeing lights twinkling where darkness once ruled, knowing that one man's secret dream changed everything. Sometimes, when I pass by kids playing near the river, I smile, remembering how he once told me that even small sparks can start great fires. Now, whenever someone asks how the project began, I tell them the truth. It started with a man who believed that hope could be built piece by piece with patience, courage, and love for a place that everyone else had forgotten. My grandfather's secret project wasn't just about power. It was about faith. Faith in people, faith in progress, and faith that no dream is ever too small to change the world. And every time the turbines spin, I feel like he's still there, watching over the town he loved so much, whispering to all of us that it's never too late to rebuild, to dream, and to make the impossible real.
When I was a kid, my grandfather was the kind of man everyone in town respected, but also whispered about behind his back. He wasn't rich or powerful, but there was something mysterious about him. Something that made people curious. He worked quietly in his workshop every single day, rain or shine, building. Well, no one really knew what. Whenever someone asked what he was making, he'd simply smile and say, "It's my little project." Even my father didn't know what it was. To us, it was Grandpa's secret project, something that had become almost a local legend. Growing up, I spent a lot of time with him in that dusty old workshop. The place smelled of wood, oil, and old paper. There were blueprints pinned to the walls, strange metal tools I couldn't name, and piles of materials that didn't seem to belong together. He'd always tell me stories while he worked. Stories about how our town used to be before the mines shut down, before the factories closed, before people lost hope. One day, he'd say, "This town will live again. You just have to believe in it." As a child, I didn't really understand what he meant. I just liked listening to his deep, calm voice and watching the way his hands moved with purpose. When I was 14, he passed away unexpectedly. It hit our family hard, but what really stuck with everyone was that he never revealed what his secret project was. After the funeral, my dad locked up his workshop. "Let's give it time," he said. But weeks turned into months, and months into years. Eventually, the workshop became one of those places everyone avoided, too full of memories, too full of mystery. Years later, when I turned 28, I came back to the town after years of working in the city. The place looked worse than I remembered. Shops were closed, homes were falling apart, and people seemed to have given up. I decided to visit Grandpa's old house one afternoon, partly out of nostalgia, partly because I wanted to see that workshop again. The key was still hanging behind the kitchen door. The moment I stepped inside, I felt like I was walking back in time. Everything was exactly as he'd left it. The blueprints, the tools, even his old coffee cup still sitting on the workbench, now covered in dust. I started looking around, brushing off old papers and boxes, trying to piece together what he'd been working on. Most of the blueprints were confusing, a mix of mechanical parts, piping systems, and something that looked like a miniature turbine. But tucked away inside one of the drawers, I found a letter addressed to me. The envelope was yellowed with age, the handwriting unmistakably his. "Dear Sam," it began, "if you're reading this, then I didn't get the chance to finish what I started. But maybe you can. This town gave us everything, and now it needs something in return. What I've built is for them. For everyone. You'll understand when you look beneath." Beneath what? That part confused me until I noticed that one corner of the workshop floor had a slightly different color. I moved the tool bench aside and started pulling up the wooden boards. Underneath, I found a trap door. My hands trembled as I pulled it open.